I felt the gravel crack beneath my shoes as Alvin slammed the car door behind me. The Utah sun had dipped just enough to paint the sky blood orange, and for a moment, I wondered if even God was trying to warn me. We were miles away from anything familiar. No houses, no cars, just endless fields and silence that felt cruel. The same son I carried for 9 months looked at me through the rolled-down window with eyes as cold as a stranger's. "This is where you get off, Mother," he said flatly. Not Mom, not Mama, Mother. Before I could ask why, before I could even breathe, he tossed a single suitcase onto the dirt and started to drive away. My heart pounded, not from fear of the wilderness, but from something far worse. The realization that my own flesh and blood had planned this. But what he did not know was that I still held one thing that could destroy everything he and his brother had schemed. Thank you so much to everyone watching right now. To my loyal subscribers, I appreciate you with all my heart. And to the new and returning viewers who have not yet subscribed, oh, I cannot wait for you to click that button. Your support is the fuel that keeps this channel alive. Please do not forget to leave your reactions in the comments as you listen. Now, let me take you back to how all of this truly began. My name is Janet Thompson, 60 years old, born and raised right here in Utah. For 35 years, I was married to the love of my life, Fred Thompson, or at least that was what I believed. Together, we raised 2 sons, Alvin, my firstborn, always sharp-minded and confident, and Fred Jr., my gentle child with a quiet soul. Our home was modest, but our love was rich, or so I thought. Fred had always been a steady man, calm, reserved, responsible. He provided for us, never missed Sunday service, and kissed me goodnight without fail. But 2 years before his passing, something in him changed. He started locking his study, taking late-night phone calls, looking at me with an expression I could not understand. I asked him once if something was wrong. He smiled, but it was not the kind of smile a husband gives his wife. It was the kind of man wears a man when he is hiding something he thinks she'll never find. Then came the illness, quick, unexpected. The doctors called it heart failure, but grief makes you suspicious of everything, even death. His funeral was held on a cold Tuesday morning. My hands were trembling, not from the chill, but from the strange heaviness in the air. My sons stood beside me, but they did not look like mourners. They looked like men waiting for a transaction to be completed. And just when I thought I could rest my aching heart in peace after burying the man I loved, Alvin approached me with a folder in his hand. "Mother," he said, placing it into my palms. "Father's will." I opened it slowly. My breath caught in my throat. According to that paper, Fred had left everything to my sons. The house, the land, the savings. Even my wedding ring was listed under family heirlooms reserved for male descendants. Not a single thing for his wife of 35 years. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake, but the way Alvin and Fred Jr. looked at me, their faces unflinching, their eyes avoiding mine, told me it was not just real, it was planned. A buzzing filled my ears, rage, confusion, disbelief. But beneath it all, a whisper of truth began to rise. "This is not your husband's handwriting." And I was right, because 2 days later, I discovered something in my late husband's study that proved the will was a lie, and my sons, my own children, were part of it. I sat alone at the kitchen table that night, staring at the so-called will that Alvin had given me. The letters were too clean, too perfect. Fred's handwriting had always been slightly slanted to the right, with little curls at the end of his R's and S's. But this was rigid, precise, printed like a document someone was in a hurry to make look old. I lifted the page to the light. No watermark, no legal stamp, no attorney signature. Just the forged declaration of my erasure. I felt my heart swelling in my chest, not from sadness this time, but from a cold, growing anger. The kind a mother never expects to feel toward her own children. The boys had gone upstairs earlier, whispering among themselves. The same sons I used to tuck in at night were now plotting about how to bury me alive, financially, emotionally, and physically if necessary. I needed to know more. I needed proof. I stood up and made my way to Fred's study, the one he had kept locked for the past 2 years. Now that he was gone, I wanted answers. I tried the handle, locked. I felt foolish for not having checked earlier, but grief sometimes blinds us to common sense. Then I remembered, Fred used to keep a spare key taped beneath the hallway air vent. I knelt down, my knees cracking beneath my weight, and reached under with trembling fingers. Cold metal brushed against my skin. Got you. I unlocked the study door. The scent of old paper and dust met me like a wall. The room was untouched, as if Fred had walked out only yesterday. His desk sat in the corner, neat as always, notepads stacked, pens aligned, a man of order, even in death. But his desk drawer, the one he never let anyone touch, was slightly open. Inside were documents, bank statements, land deeds, insurance policies. I rummaged through them, searching for anything bearing my name. Nothing. I felt the burn of panic rise again, until something caught my eye. A small brown envelope hidden beneath a stack of folders, sealed with wax. And on the front was my name, Janet, to be opened only if something happens to me. My breath stopped. I reached for it. But before I could open it, I heard footsteps. I turned off the desk lamp and stood completely still in the dark. Whispers. "Are you sure she bought it?" Alvin's voice, sharp, insistent. Fred Jr.'s reply was softer. "She did not argue. That means she is done. Tomorrow we talk to the realtor." My blood ran cold. They wanted to sell my home? The house Fred and I built brick by brick, tier by tier? The place I gave birth, hosted Christmases, planted flowers, prayed, and grew old in. Suddenly, Fred Jr. laughed, a sound I had not heard from him in years. Not a joyful laugh, a relieved one. "As soon as we get rid of her, we will be set." Get rid of me? I covered my mouth, holding in the scream rising inside me. But it was not pain I felt now. It was clarity. This was no misunderstanding, no miscommunication. My sons chose greed over blood. The floorboard creaked beneath my foot, and I froze. Silence. Then, "Did you hear that?" Alvin said from behind the door. I grabbed the brown envelope and slipped it under my blouse. If they found me here now, I would lose everything, including my life, perhaps. I hurried to the window, easing it open. The night air slapped my face as I climbed out, landing softly on the grass below. I did not look back. I waited until morning to open the envelope. I sat outside under the maple tree Fred had planted years ago. My hands shook as I broke the wax seal. Inside were 2 documents and a handwritten letter. The first was a deed to a property I never knew existed, a cabin in Moab, Utah, registered solely in my name. The second was a bank account statement, over $430,000, also registered to me. But then the letter. I unfolded it slowly. "If you are reading this, Janet, it means I failed to protect you. There are things I discovered too late, things I wish I could have told you sooner. Someone close to us is not who you believe they are. Trust no one, especially not." The last line was smudged, ink bled, illegible. I squinted, trying to make it out. It looked like Aunt? Before I could finish the thought, a shadow fell over me. I turned. Standing there was Fred Jr., tears in his eyes, but his voice was not soft this time. "Mother, we need to talk." His shadow stretched across the grass as he approached me slowly, hands trembling slightly. Fred Jr. had always been the quieter one, the more reserved son, yet in that moment, his silence felt more threatening than any shout. I clutched the brown envelope tighter, the edge pressing against my chest beneath my blouse. The crisp morning air suddenly felt thin. "Mother," he said again, softer now, as if rehearsing gentleness. "Why are you out here so early?" I watched him carefully. His eyes were red, not from grief, but either from lack of sleep or guilt. "Fresh air," I replied. He nodded slowly, but I could tell he did not believe me. His gaze shifted toward the house, as if making sure Alvin was not watching. Then he steps closer. "Mother, I need you to listen to me before things get any worse." My heart hammered against my ribs. What things? He swallowed hard, hesitated, then spoke in a shaky voice. "Alvin is getting desperate. He wants everything settled quickly. He wants you out of the house before the end of the week. He's talking to someone who convinced him this is the right way, someone who has been whispering in his ear long before Father even died." A coldness ran through me. Someone guiding this? My mind flickered back to the letter. Trust no one, especially not. "That someone," I said slowly. "Is it family?" Fred Jr.'s eyes widened slightly, which told me all I needed to know. I pressed further. "Is it your aunt? Your father's sister?" His breathing hitched. He did not answer, which meant yes. I stood up, my entire body shaking with both dread and fury. Of all people, Martha, Fred's older sister, the woman who brought casseroles during birthdays and knitted blankets for the boys when they were infants, the one who had always spoken sweetly to my face, yet carried an air of superiority, as if she never believed I was worthy of her brother. She had always been close to Alvin, too close. Long conversations in hushed tones during family gatherings, financial advice offered without my presence. And recently, she had started visiting far more often, always when I was not home. Pieces began snapping together like shattered glass, forming a picture. This was never just my son's. This was engineered. For a moment, I felt tears burn behind my eyes, not out of self-pity, but out of sheer disbelief that Betrayal had been sitting beside me at every Thanksgiving feast, smiling through deceitful lips. I looked at my son. "Fred Jr., I said firmly, "you need to tell me everything." He hesitated, his jaw clenched as though battling with his conscience. Then he finally spoke. "It started before Father died. Aunt Martha came to us saying Father was planning to rewrite his will, leaving everything to you. She told us that if we did not secure our inheritance, we would be left with nothing. She said you would remarry, that a new husband would take everything that belonged to our bloodline." I felt my knees weaken. "She convinced Alvin that Father would betray us. She told him men change before death, that they start thinking with their heart instead of their head. She said the only way to protect what was rightfully ours was to get ahead of it. And you believed her?" I asked, my voice trembling, not with fragility, but with venom. He lowered his head, guilt staining his features. I did not want to, but Alvin threatened to do it without me. He said if I did not stand with him, I would be left out entirely. I swear I did not know." "Enough." My voice cracked through the air like lightning. He flinched. For a long moment, silence lay between us, like a battlefield between mother and son. Then he spoke again, voice cracking. "Mother,
I want to fix it." I stared at him, unsure whether to believe or despise him. "Give me the envelope," he said gently. "Let me help you." I stepped back. "Never." His face fell, shadowed in regret. "Then let me protect you. Another way. Mother, Alvin is meeting with Aunt Martha today at the attorney's office in town. They are going to finalize the paperwork to evict you and list the house." Everything inside me went still. It was happening today. I closed my eyes, steadying my breath, and right then, my sorrow died. Something else took its place. Resolve. They wanted to erase me. They wanted me forgotten. They had abandoned me on a road once, but now I would be the storm they never saw coming. By noon, I had made my decision. I left the house without a word, the brown envelope tucked safely in my bag. Instead of going to the police or calling a lawyer immediately, I went somewhere unexpected. Somewhere only Fred would know I would go. The old church in Salt Lake City where we had first met at 17. There, sitting on the same pew where he once asked me to marry him, I opened the letter again and traced my fingers over his unfinished warning. Trust no one, especially not the smudged name beneath still unreadable. But now, I already knew. Martha. As I sat there, a presence entered through the back doors. Heavy footsteps, slow, confident. I turned and there she stood, Martha. Her eyes cold, her lips curved into a smirk that finally revealed her true nature. She had found me.
She stood at the back of the church like a vulture in Sunday clothes. Martha, my late husband's sister, my children's aunt, the woman I once trusted enough to hold my babies, now the woman who plotted to steal everything I had left in this world. She walked toward me with calculated grace, heels echoing across the chapel floor like the ticking of a clock counting down the war. "Well," she said coolly, stopping before me, "I warned Alvin you were more cunning than you appeared." There was no pretense now, no fake kindness. Her mask had fallen. I rose from the pew, back straight, no longer the grieving widow or abandoned mother. I was Janet Thompson, the woman her husband trusted enough to prepare me for even this. "You stole my husband's trust," I said calmly. "You poisoned my sons, and you dared to think you could erase me?" A smirk tugged at her lips. "Erase you? No, just relocate you somewhere peaceful, far away, perhaps a care home." She tilted her head mockingly. "After all, you are 60. It is time you stepped aside." I felt no fear anymore, only clarity. I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope. Her smile vanished. "You think I did not know what you two were planning?" I said, stepping closer. "Did you truly believe Fred would leave me defenseless?" For the first time, her confident mask cracked. "What is that?" "Proof," I replied. "A deed, a bank account, and most importantly, your brother's final words. Words that reveal you have been conspiring long before his death." Her eyes widened. "You cannot prove anything." "Oh," I said softly, "but I already have." I held up my phone. I recorded everything Fred Jr. confessed this morning. Every name, every detail. Her face drained of color. And while you came here to intimidate me, I continued, I forwarded copies of it to 3 lawyers and to the police. Her jaw clenched. Her breathing became sharp. You will regret this, she hissed. No, I said, you will. By that evening, the storm had already begun. I arrived at the attorney's office in town, not as a broken widow, but with legal firepower by my side. Alvin was already there, signing documents to list the house, when he saw me walk in. He froze. Mother, what are you doing here? I placed the real deed and my inheritance papers on the table. This house is not yours to sell, and neither is my life. His face twisted with anger. You cannot do this. I just did. His voice rose, desperation leaking through. Aunt Martha said, Aunt Martha lied, and now she will face what she deserves. At that moment, the police entered the building. Martha was arrested for fraud, coercion, and forgery conspiracy. Alvin turned pale. Fred Jr., who had followed me inside, stood frozen with guilt drowning his features. The officers led Martha past me. She glared, hatred burning in her eyes. This is not over, she spat. I stepped closer and whispered, for you it is. Weeks passed. The legal storm raged, but I remained unshaken. The forged will was invalidated. My property and finances were secured. And as for my sons, justice demanded consequences. Yet motherhood demanded mercy. I told the court I did not want them imprisoned, but I also told my sons they would never again hold power over my life. I offered them a choice: redemption through humility or distance through pride. One chose redemption. One chose silence. Fred Jr. broke down in tears, apologizing with the sincerity I had longed to hear. Now he visits me every week at the cabin in Moab, the one Fred secretly prepared for me. As for Alvin, he vanished from my life without goodbye. Perhaps one day he will return, or perhaps guilt is his punishment. Either way, I am free. Now I sit on the porch of my cabin, overlooking the vast Utah desert, where the sun paints the world gold. I'm 60. I have lost much, but I have gained something greater than land or money: wisdom. And if you are listening to my story, let me tell you this: blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. Never underestimate a quiet woman. Grief may bend her, but it will never break her. And when she rises like a storm. Thank you for staying to the end of my story. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think I was right to show my sons mercy? What would you have done in my place? Should Alvin ever be forgiven? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like this story if it moved you. And if you have not yet, please subscribe. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Until next time, stay strong,
stay wise, and never let anyone write you out of your own story.